Here are a couple tips for you to help you manage change. Number one, don't accept vague statements and stereotypes as gospel. One of my favorites is management's not committed to this. Whatever your change is, management's not committed. In my first organization, I traveled around place to place and I heard a steady diet of that for about 6 months before I finally started asking, well, if management was committed, what would you see? And the response every time was, well, we don't know, but they're not committed. So it's just an assumption. Now that leads to number two. To debunk the myth, you got to ask that question. Number two is learn to look at things from the other person's perspective. When I hear management's not committed, I start pointing out from the role of management. What about all the time that's been invested in your team meetings? What about all the money that's been invested in your training? What about the list of quick fixes up on the break room wall that management has red-penned after they've taken care of? All those things spell commitment. Now, that's what you're doing when you're talking to the frontline staff. But then when you go into the talk to the managers, you represent the staff point of view. And you say you're giving people the opportunity to believe that you're not committed to this. But I did this and I did it. We know you did. But they don't know it. They need to hear it from you, right? And then, so in addition to doing this stuff, you got to keep communicating and talking about it. So as a facilitator, learn how to look at things from the other person's perspective or represent the other person's point of view. Another tip I would give you, always understand who created the as-is situation. Now what I mean by that, there's a change management saying that goes, things are the way they are because they got that way. And basically what it means is, make sure you understand, if you're trying to change something on a wholesale basis, make sure you understand the evolution of how it got to where it is. I've been involved in a project recently where $4 million has been invested in a particular solution that doesn't look very promising. And the manager responsible for the expenditure has almost got an illogical attachment to it. But it really isn't illogical. He's on the line, right? Those are the things that you have to understand if you want to manage effective change. So you really got to dig in to understand how you got to where you are. The last tip I'd give you, make sure you set the expectation up front that this takes time. If it's a 5-year plan, you can't be looking back after 2 years and saying, why aren't we finished? Make sure you establish the time frame up front and keep the timeline with you if anybody ever questions why you haven't gotten to the end of the rainbow yet. That's the secret to success when managing change.